Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Boxer, the technical trader at thetechtrader.com. It's Saturday, June the 29th. This is the weekend webinar. An eventful week for the markets, particularly on Friday when the indices, or a couple of them, hit new all-time highs and sharply reversed, taking the S&P 500 from a new all-time high of 55.23 and closing it at 54.51. It's about 70 points off the high. That's a very, very big move for the S&P in one day, 1.5%. And usually these kind of reversal days lead to lower levels. Here we had one, we were down for 5 days. Here we had one there that led to the market going lower for a couple of weeks. So expect to see potentially some lower levels, but it's going to be a question of where support lies. Right now, support's at around 5,400 in that range, and then 50. We do have some support at the near-term support, is 54.47, and beneath that is 5,400. This, a more important level, is more like 53.27. And that's an area where I would really think if the market did not hold there, it's going to get much uglier. What does the NDX look like? Nasdaq 100 also had that monster big reversal, reaching over 20,000 for the first time ever to 2017, and then closing at 19,965. A 350-point reversal just in one day, and that's a big reversal. Again, like we've had in past, those kind of reversal days led to lower levels. We'll just have to see what occurs and what kind of fall through we get. The NDX support is 19,470, and the gap at 19,347. That's for starters right there. Then we have the 50-day moving average coming in at about 18,675. So lots of room to come down, of course, but if we do get a pop to the upside, this could get a blow off, and we'll have to just see if they're going to reverse back into it, and the reason for this reversal was options expiration or not. So stay tuned. What's interesting is what's going on with the other transportation and IWMs, which were trailing, and they had up days on Friday. Friday, Dow Jones was up, industrial transportation index, I should say, gained about 1 full percent, and closed at the highest level we've seen in about 5 or 6 weeks, and across the declining top line. So I'm not sure how significant it is, because if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and it was just a little bit of a touch above that line here, and we fail right here, then it could be fifth wave down. Kind of an important couple of days coming up. IWM tracking the Russell 2000 also popped out and closed above the moving averages and across the declining top line the way I've drawn it. So those are two indices that were trailing, and now they're acting a bit better. Let's look at the underlying technicals. The McClellan oscillator, which has been weak of late, and then all of a sudden bounced from an oversold condition at 150, got up to plus 57, almost 58, the highest level in about a month on Friday before the back off to 16. So a pretty big pullback intraday from almost 58 down to 16. That's amazing, and yet it was still up 25 points on a day. So we'll see what happens here, but you can see that making all-time highs in the markets with this, excuse me, oscillator near flat. It's not a good indicator for the market either. The amount of percentage of stocks above their 40-day moving average, which is a good indication of where the market is, also making new highs with only a third of the stocks participating. Never a good thing. So going forward is questionable to say the least. In addition, the VIX indicator, which gotten up to about 12 and change, backed off 1276, backed off to around 1244, and not a big deal either way, but it's near the lower end of the range, which does not exactly show an oversold market. This is more apathy than everything else. All right, so now we cover the technicals. What I want to look at is the NASDAQ 100 generals. What are they doing? How strong are they? Well, they're leading the market higher, although Friday was an ugly day for most of them. You see the reversal here, engulfing reversal day on Apple, despite the fact that it recently broken out of a falling wedge. There was no follow through. The volume was lighter. You can see bigger volume on down days, and that's never a good sign either. If Apple dropped below 206.5, that has a problem. Amazon, which broke out to new highs, then backed off sharply on Friday, losing about 4.5 points, but more importantly, coming down to test some key support about the 191 range. But beneath that, 185 is support for Amazon. And Google also had a reversal day, and after making new all-time highs near 188, sorry, it then reversed and closed under 184. So we'll have to see whether there's any kinds of downside follow-through. It's still an uptrend, of course, and far from a breakdown, but never a good sign that when they end the week on a down note like that. We'll see what happens with some of the others. Microsoft also coming off a high the following day, an all-time high at 456. It closed at 447, 9 points off the high just in the last day and a half or so. But it is comfortably above where support lies down there, 433.35. Netflix also made new highs the week before last, and last week got up near it, and then a Friday backed off of 688 to close at 674, 14 points off the high, and down 10 on the day after being up in the morning. So again, I'm concerned about the reversals I saw Friday, but one down day is not a trend make, that's for sure. Taking a look at Meta, also a reversal coming off some key resistance up here. And NVIDIA, of course, the monster of the midway. I'm concerned about this pattern, and here's why. When you have a big reversal, engulfing reversal day like that had a week and a half ago, and then it comes down and bounces and forms this what looks like a bear wedge, and with low volume and flat technicals, I'm not excited, and NVIDIA might lead this market lower. If NVIDIA breaks 118, I'd be very concerned about the market going lower and maybe substantially lower. Next major support is down around 110, believe it or not. There is some support perhaps at I'm going to say 112 and 107 are your support levels for NVIDIA if we break down from here. And then there's Tesla, which is suddenly acting better than all of them. And after a 5-wave decline, spiked up, coiled from the wedge, and broke out. Last week up, the last 4 days in a row. And you can see nearing a resistance level at around 205.5, 6, that if we get through could lead to 225.30. So for now, that's the better looking stock of the entire lot we follow. Let's turn our attention to the major ETFs that I follow, the semiconductors for starters. Very similar to NVIDIA, a big reversal down to the moving averages and trend line, and a 4 or 5 day bear flag development. I am very concerned about the SMH and semiconductor stocks in general. If this is the beginning of a new downtrend, you might extrapolate something like this, which means we're coming down to test the 243.45 zone. That's a long way down from here. Financials, not faring much better after a nice rally the week before. Last week they had a tough week. Even bouncing on Friday didn't help much. Down on the week, as you can see, and it has work to do. And this has to get over 107, 7.5 to really be meaningful. And right now it's in what looks like potential triple top, breakdown, snapback, and it's neutral overall because it's in a lateral, consolidation. But it's been going on since March now, and financials aren't making any headway, and certainly aren't helping the market. Biotech's having a bad day on Friday, but not a bad day week overall. Still, it came down, and you can see that lateral price resistance at 95, 96 zone is key for this one, as well as support at 80, 88, 89 on the downside. That's kind of neutral lateral as well. But looking at the overall pattern, it might be a left shoulder, head, right shoulder. If they break down from here, a big drop could be forthcoming. So I'm very concerned about the markets in general and the posture of many of the market leaders as well. Now I'll look at some of the other ETFs we follow closely in the gold sector. For example, the GDX, Nugget, and JNUG, all of them forming the same kind of 5-wave patterns up and a wave down. So if we're going to have a longer term move, it could be wave 1 and 2, and 3 could take us substantially higher, like in the mid to high 50s for JNUG, same and maybe low to mid 50s on Nugget, and the NDX up and GDX, near 40, 41 for a longer term target. So that's what that looks like. Now looking at natural gas, obviously oil's been having a tough time of it. After breaking out, we caught that leg right there, that 10-point move on a tech trader swing, but you can see the come down, the retest. And this is in jeopardy of a complete breakdown. Now it's cold, ready to break out, but only if it pops through. And there's a lot of lateral resistance and declining 50-day moving average resistance, all up around 53.5, 4 that it needs to get through. And if this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, it could be a fifth wave down. If that's the case, maybe oil has that 1, 2, 3, 4 fifth wave up. This one I wouldn't make any commitments to right now. In the oil sector, USO had broken out of its downtrend above the moving average. They're crossing over. This is very bullish for oil in general and the oil stocks. And if you'll note, the strongest group of late has been the oil and energy stocks. Any move on the USO above Friday's high or above 80 3/4 would probably lead to 83, 83.5 and retest the April high for starters. If you go back way back to last October, that high was in the same range, so there's a double top there. And silver, we didn't talk about earlier, but I'd like to just show you that AGQ, very similar setup. My targets would be 48 and 57 going forward for AGQ, but we don't want to see that breakdown under 35, 5.5, right through there. So that's a look at some of the major ETFs that we follow. Let's get to the stocks. We have a whole list of them and some shorts as well. Starting off at ADMA, a beautiful biotech stock has been in a phenomenal uptrend since last October when it was trading at 3. Hit 11.27, not quite quadrupling, but about, I would say, 275% run in the last 8 or 9 months. That's pretty fantastic. I'll take a look where it's at too. It doesn't look like it has anything stopping it from going into the 13, 14 zone. AEM, a gold stock and one of the majors, out of a base, long uptrend, and then a pullback consolidation. Should it hold support, and we'd like to see it hold 63.5, 3/4, then my target's going to be 75. In the gold sector, Alamos Gold with a beautiful base, breakout, coil, and pop is now wedging. I'm looking for higher levels, perhaps retest 17 and get up in the 1920 zone. AGIO in the biotech sector breaks out of a long base through a double top, spikes up, and then pulls back and forms a wedge. If it extends, my target's 54.5. Be careful though; it could, if the market comes down, this could test 40. ALAR, beautiful uptrend, slower angle here, sharper angle there, and then it took a hit, I believe on earnings, popped and did a right-handed extended and broke out again. So this one conceivably could see if it does continue in the mid-50s or more. AMD, along with the other semiconductors, is questionable. It had the uptrend, broke down and popped, and this consolidation coil is promising. As a matter of fact, on Friday, when most of the semis were down, this was up 2 3/4, so promising sign there. But it has to get up to 174 to be more meaningful. Then your targets are 185 and 200. But for now, be careful and stop under 153. Another semiconductor, Amkor, broke out of a long trading base and then pulled back to retest. Had a good day on Friday. Again, Friday was options expiration. A lot of volume usually trades in those days. We'll see if that's meaningful, or being near the long-term top of the long-term trend, this could be a time for it to pull back. We'll see. Medical device manufacturer Artaviron, symbols AORT, broke out of a base and it had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way move and then coiled and broke out. So momentum is strong on this one, and my target is 28.9. ASNS, you can see the big explosive move it had a month ago, and then the pullback, and then another pop and falling wedge, followed by Friday's big day when it traded 75 million and advanced 50% in one day on Friday. If this follows through, look out for 4.5 and 6. ASTS, pop, breakaway gap, little falling wedge, low volume ebb on that pullback, and then pop again, then form a flag, and then pop and go again to the target zone before pulling back, but it doesn't look done to me with a target of 15. ATEX had 2 big days Thursday and Friday with a breakaway on Thursday on big volume and a beautiful big follow through on volume to test resistance. Looking at the long-term chart, this is a massive 2-year base that, if broken, could or should lead to, I would have to say, high 40s. One of my favorite golds is AU, that's Anglo Ashanti, breaks out of a base with a breakaway gap and then retests the stair steps its way higher and does a 1-2 consolidation and then pulls back in orderly fashion and breaks out. What I need to see is, can this break out above 25.5, 3/4? Then I'm looking for 28 and 32. BCRX, long downtrend, explodes through it and then forms a wedge. As long as the support holds, and we'd like to see this not get below 590 or so, I would look for 7, 7 3/4 and 9 going forward. BLBD in a beautiful trend, broke out of a base pattern here back in December. That was down around the high teens. It's made it all the way up to the 60 range. I think it was 59.40, right? And now this one's formed a nice coil. I would like to see it not break the platform and break support at 52. A takeout, though, could get you to mid-60s, even low 70s. VIX-X, a phenomenal chart, taking this one from 48 to 78, and now looking like it could stretch to 85. Cassie broke out of a base and ran. This has been up for 5 of the last 6 days, and sharply so. From about 2 3/4 to 5 1/2, it doubled. Your next target is 6 3/4, 7, and then 8. Kava, this restaurant chain, with a really strong breakout here. See the volume? And then a strong run that's taken it from December around the 31 range into the mid-90s. The actual high on S was 97-ish, and now it's coiling or consolidating and looking like it wants to go even further. Next target is 115. A junior gold stock core, formerly Quarterline, breaking out and now flagging. Next target 7.5. CDMA, beautiful inverse head and shoulders and a breakaway gap. This is a tech trader swing. It's now forming a beautiful wedge. It may have broken out Friday. Resistance at 17, that's your next target, and then 20. Seco, an environmental stock and waste pollutions type stock, has a phenomenal chart. From May of last year, when it was under 5, to June of this year, when it was trading at 27. It's a 5-fold increase, and yet I don't see momentum loss at all. Looking for 32 next. CLFD breaks out of a base with a breakaway gap and now a rising flag. It looks solid. I have a target up around 43, 44, followed by 50 if it keeps going. Celestica is in a beautiful rising pattern ever since June of last year when it was trading around 10. It's gone up 6-fold, trading as high as 61.06. Last 4 or 5 weeks, consolidating in a flag type pattern, consolidation. If it breaks out, targeting mid 60s, low 70s. Core, a tech trader swing, broke out, pulled back from the wedge, exploded out of it, and now it's stair-stepping its way higher. There's some resistance right about the high of last week, and then any extension gets me into the $80 range. CRBP with a big breakaway gap in January and a pop and a wedge, then stair-stepped its way higher. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth wave looking for substantially higher, and it may even double from here over the next few weeks and months. Crdo, a tech trader swing, popped and broke out last month, flagged and broke out again. It's trading at its highest level ever, about 30 in the 30s, and I think we can see mid-30s. Carvana, what a beautiful chart. Pop, falling, flag, pop, consolidation, flag, and another one. It's had 5 waves up and it broke out again. Right now I'm looking for 175. Daktronics, a beautiful long-term chart. Currently at double top, triple tops were broken, and you can see the extension last week. I think he gets to 16 and then 20. DA Ash, that's a tech trader swing short. We'll get to that later. Dell put out a swing on that one back here in September when it was trading in the high 50s. It's tripled to 180 or 177.8 range and pulled back and formed a wedge, but it looks dangerous to me. I don't like the technicals. Just be careful with this one. Don't let it get underneath last week's low, 135. DRS, junior aerospace stock with a great chart and a rising channel. Looks like the extension gets me to 28. EBS, tech trader swing, broke out, wedge, pop, pulled back and retested, and now flagging or an ascending bull wedge in here, mainly looking for a double digits, maybe 9 and then 10. EGO in the gold sector, a beautiful consolidations formed. We have key support at 14 and resistance 16.5. If it gets through, 19.5, 20 is your target. NVDA has been in a downtrend and then broke out with a breakaway gap from the wedge. That's where I liked it. Above the moving averages, which crossed over. You can see the breakout, the flag, the pop, and retest, and it's acting great. And really spiked last week before backing off and consolidating. But sure looks like it isn't done yet. I'm looking for 20. EXK in the silver sector, beautiful consolidation flag. If it holds and doesn't break down under, say, 340, and then takes out 4, I'd look for 5 and 5 3/4. Extra EXTR, extra extreme networks, breaking out of a base and running with some volume. Looks like it wants to extend to test the gap at least at 14.5. If so, 16.5 would be next. Form factor in a semiconductor group, beautiful rising channel, and hitting the top of it after breaking out on Friday. Take a look at this pattern. It's a ascending bull wedge in here, very bullish. Actually, maybe forming some sort of new accelerated channel. My target, 68. FRPT, pop coil, pop flag, pop ascending bull coil, and look at the way this keeps going. If it gets through, and this is a big if, 130, I'm looking for 150, 55. FTI in a beautiful uptrend as well, in a nice consolidation phase, maybe coming out of a falling or a wedge effect over here. Let's see if it can get through the 27 range, then I'm looking for 29 and 33. GLW breaks out of some key resistance in a long base pattern over the last few years and pulls back, but the stair-step move looks like it's headed for 43. Halozyme, HALO, beautiful base breakaway gap, pull back and now forming a wedge. And should this get through 53, I would look for 58.9. HNST with a beautiful breakout and run up, but a long falling wedge broke out last week. Some good volume traded on Friday, could be an option expiration thing, but anyway. Resistance to 335, if we get through that, 4 and 5 are your targets. Hood, beautiful long-term rising channel with a 1, 2, 3, 4, when a fifth wave with a 1, 2, it looks like. I still think this has more to go, targeting 26 and 30. INOD breaks out of a base with a breakaway gap and explodes, then pulls back. Right now, in the parallel rising channel, is calling for a move back to 16 3/4 and then 19. KD, it's been off from IBM, it's phenomenal all year, it's having gone from 11, 12 range to high 20s, but flagging. Next target, 32. LBPH exploded back in January and spent months consolidating in a trading range, but broke out on Friday significantly, I think. If it extends, I'm looking for mid and then high 30s. LSF, tech trader swing, Laird, superfoods breaks out, falling wedge breaks out, little flag, and then explodes. Flagging again now, the stocks extend to 5 3/4. We're doing well with this one. My targets are 6.5 and 7 3/4. Mara, the crypto stock, with a 1, 2, 3. This could be wave 4 narrowing to the apex. If it goes again, if there's a big run in Bitcoin, I think this is mid 30s and then low to mid 50s potentially. This looks pretty intriguing if it breaks out. Keep an eye. MDIA exploded in April, imploded in May, and then it started spiking again in June. Recently, having gone from 102 to 433, more than quadrupling. The stock looks set up for even more when it moved to test the spike high at 6.5. MIRM, the biotech stock, broke out of a falling wedge and went vertical, now retesting the high. Long-term chart, pretty impressive, and if it breaks out of here, it could make a substantial move. Moneyline, which we gave you a swing on there, had moved up very nicely. It was one of our better trades. It went from mid-50s to almost 100 and then pulled back. It's still within the confines of a rising channel. I just don't want it underneath last week's 67 low. MLGO exploded and had falling wedge and then exploded again, this time getting up to key resistance before backing off slightly. If we get through here, a possible target could be at low to mid-40s. Wow. 3M had a nice inverse head and shoulder breakout. We put a swing on it. It ran up to target number 1 and wedge. Target number 2 is 111. Target number 3, 118.20. MRUS had a beautiful uptrend. Broke out of this consolidation with a gap and has been forming a nice bull wedge of sorts in here. You can see the pop and breakout on Thursday. Not a fall through yet, but let's just say it gets up through here. I would look for mid-60s, low 70s. NNE. Pop wedge and then explode. 2-day sharp pullback, and then look at that reversal Friday. I would look for a retest of the 30 to 35 zone. We get through that 40, 45. Nanox may have reversed with a gap on Friday. It broke the downtrend, but not quite through the moving averages just yet. Has some follow-through work to do. Targets are 8 and 9. NRX, nice biotech stock with a beautiful 45-degree angle rising channel. Let's call this a 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth wave started with a 1, 2. If we get 3, 4, and 5, we might see $30 on this one. NTRA with a long-term rising channel. Doesn't look done yet, but it didn't have a good day. Friday, there was a nasty reversal day. Let's just say I don't want this under 104. If it goes, target 121. Ocular Therapeutics. V bottom, right hand extended, broke through the declining top line, to the moving average, and closed above the mid-May high. That's a good sign that it wants to extend. If so, looking for 8 and 9. Pan American Silver, one of the bigger silver purveyors. You can see the long run up and now the pullback. Your targets at 22.5 and 25. Impinj, one of our best swings of the year. It went from literally from high 50s and tripled to 175 over the course of the last 8 or 9 months. Now maybe coming out of a flag and popped the 50-day moving average and declining tops on a Friday. Keep an eye on this one. Resistance and target 167 and then 175. Beyond that, we'll see. Palantir, a little sloppy after getting to resistance. It backed up and held, and now it's bouncing again. Key resistance zone 26.5, 7. If it gets through, 31.2 is your target. PTGX, long-term pattern. Most importantly, near-term 1, 2, 3, 4, and a big breakaway on Friday. If it gets through here, we can look for high 30s to 40. RDW, a junior aerospace stock with a beautiful base, broke out in early May, just kept running. At this point, it's at the highest level since early 22, so let's say 2-year high. My target is 9. Reborn Coffee, breakaway gap, pop wedge, and then another pop, falling wedge, looking for a 5th wave up to 13, 14. Rivian popped and exploded on some very positive news, a big contract with Volkswagen, and now the pullback is perhaps looking to fill the gap in the retest 12.5. On a longer term basis, I think this might see at $19. RNA, one of our other best swings of the year, went from in December low in the 6 range to in the low 40s, folks, and it doesn't look done. There's a flag there. You could see high 40s, low 50s or more. RSI Rush Street had a base, a breakout, a retest. This is your trend line, and this is your rising channel of sorts. And I'm thinking this isn't done yet either. We're looking for 10, 11. RXST, beautiful rising channel. Recently broke out of a coil, popped and coiled again, now breaking out again. So if this is a long 1, 2, this is 3, 4. Possibly we can see this in the mid-70s. Seed 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a beautiful wave 4 coil. I think when it goes, it's going to explode because this is very thin. You might see once it gets through 635, 8 and 9. SFX, it breaks out of a base with a breakaway gap and forms a rising wedge. Very bullish. I think it's going to retest 4.5 and go to 5.5. Sprouts Family Market and a beautiful rising channel with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and still going. Might see 90. SG, that Sweet Greens, the restaurant chain, breakaway gap, run up and wedge, pop again and wedge again, right at the buy point or sell point. Meaning, if it goes any lower, it's stopped. If it breaks out, you want to buy it. 37 and 44 targets. SGHT with a spike low last November, then ran hard 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to get up to 6 from 115. So that was a big percentage move, and then a long consolidation coil before it broke out again, retested and bounced. Target 8 3/4 and 11. SMR with a monster move in March and then a big wedge form after the pullback. Held here, held there. That red line, the 50-period moving average, is held all along, telling me we want to go higher. Right now it's retested and took out that spike high, telling me that it's possible we move higher into the mid-teens. SRTS, after breaking the big downtrend, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline, broke out, ran up sharply, and then pulled back in a wedge. But it held it, support, and a trend line, and then ripped. Right now the pullback looks like wave 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm looking for a 5th wave, 7.5. Scorpio Tankers, STNG with a beautiful rising channel. This shipping stock doesn't look done, but it had a bad day Friday, so be careful. Nevertheless, if it rights itself, 88 and 95 targets. TBLT, a big reverse split stock, broke out of its base, popped and pulled back and retested, then reversed. And since that point, it's gone from 3 to 6, doubling. Now consolidating. If it gets through 6, I would look for 7 and 8. Tigo, breakaway gap, running gap, along 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks to me like they may have already broken out of this falling wedge here with the big gap on Friday. Once it gets through 25 3/4, your target's 29. TPC breaks out with breakaway gap. This construction company did a 1, 2, and then a 3, and now 4. Next wave gets me to 28.9 in my opinion. Twist Bio, beautiful rising channel, and now flagging. I'm targeting a move to 59. Uber. Long-term chart is wonderful. Major move and that took the stock from 20 to 82, quadrupling. Then this pullback and a breakout of flag. Notice the flag forming above the moving averages, and Friday was a good day for it. Watch for a follow through to get it to mid to high 70s and then low 80s. That's the tech trader new swing. ULBI was an old swing of ours that did well here, but it pulled back down and then it stepped its way up. 1, 2, 3, 4, holding support and bouncing. Keep an eye on this one for a follow through above Friday's high. Once we get up above 11.10 or so, 12 and 13.5 will be targets going forward. VICO, long-term rising channel and a beauty of late accelerated pattern, which tells me 52 is the target. VERX, similar, and a long-term pattern, which tells me breaking out of here, we could get to 41. Viking, which was a big profitable trade for us back in here when it had that big move, came down into November, but the November low, which was down to 8, saw a run that took it, believe it or not, to 99. Fantastic move. And then this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline. Is it ready for another leg up? I think so, but you don't want to go below last week's lows. Stop under 46. VRNS, similar pattern, 1, 2, and then a long 3, 4. Breaks out of the coil and has a follow-through day. So I'm looking for a test at 52, and then we'll see where it goes beyond that. VRRM has been in a phenomenal rising channel for a year now, taking it from 13 to 28. My target, 31.2. WDC breaks out of a base, there steps its way higher. The only problem with this is in the wrong group. The semiconductor group is weak of late. It needs to hold 72.3 or it's a stop. If it does run, $90 target. WGS tech trader swing, popped, broke out, popped again and broke out, flagged and just kept going. And right now it's in a beautiful pattern. I just don't want to see it roll over, but my target's 33.4 if it does hold. Woof. Beautiful run from 140 to 440, and then the pullback. But look at Friday's breakaway pop and big volume of 27 million. Should this one get above the high, I would not be surprised. I'm kind of expecting a run that takes this one to test that gap there in the 5.5 range. Zeta Global was one of our tech trader swings when it broke out and pulled back. It's gone from 11 and change to nearly 19, 1858, and now the wedge. I like this look. It's a 3-wave corrected pullback, kind of a flag that held support. Now, if it doesn't hold there, that's where your stop is under 14.5. But if it goes 19 and 22, could be targets. Zim, big shipper, broke out of an inverse head and shoulders or cup and handle. Anyway, the bottom line is it ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways up and down. That's a 1, 2. This is also a 1, 2, 3. So in the other case, any consolidation here should lead to another leg up to the low 30s. My targets are 27.5 and 30. And finally, alongside Zim, after a nice pop and pullback, coil has broken out last week. I'm looking to retest 21 and then 24.5. I'll look at some shorts and we'll finish up today, folks. Akamai has been a tech trader swing short since it broke down from the flag. This has dropped from 110.12 range into the high 80s. I'm looking for 80 or less. AMIN's been a long-term downtrend, breaking this big topping pattern, forming a big bear wedge, coming down and forming a falling wedge. Friday was a bad day for it, but it did bounce off the low, 48 and change, finished 3 points off the low. So perhaps because it was at support, it got some short covering. Nevertheless, I don't think it's done yet, looking for 42.3. AMWD rolled over, the head and shoulder top broke. It's been in a downtrend ever since. Now, it did bounce off support, but if it breaks, 70 and 65 are targets. DASH dash broke down from the wedge and then extended it to a large bear flag. If it does extend lower, I'd be looking for low 90s and then mid 80s. Disney still looks negative to me. The head and shoulder top broke down. It's been in a declining channel ever since. Friday was not a good day for it, as it dropped another 308 or 3%. The next target is 95 and then 88. INMD has been in a lousy channel and a bearish trend for a year. This rally back to resistance didn't do it any good. And quite frankly, if it breaks its low here, its recent low, it might be headed for mid-teens. JBL, head and shoulder top, and it broke breakup support. I think there's a lot of downside room in this one. We have targets all over the place. Let me show this to you again. First target, 101. Second target, 88. Third target, 75. MDB Mongo breaks down. snap back to resistance. If it fails here, I'm looking for a run to 195 and then maybe lower. This is dangerous. SIG, a tech trader swing short, forming a bear wedge after a breakdown. If this gets below this recent low, under 85.86, you might see the stock plunge into the mid-70s. SMTC, a high-tech semiconductor that had a massive reversal in the downside gap, formed a bear coil. Doesn't look good. Any move below 27.5, it's likely to plunge towards 21. And finally, TNET, which I'm going to add as a new tech trader swing short, broke a long uptrend with a breakaway gap, formed a bear coil, and it's pressing support right here. If it breaks, it's going to come down hard to 89.90 and maybe even 79.80. And that's a look at all the indices, the underlying technicals, the major ETFs, a bunch of longs, and a few shorts to wet your whistle. Please review this carefully and review it a couple times to get some ideas about what you want to do next week and or where support and resistance are on your favorite stocks. And for now, this is HB wishing you a great rest of your weekend. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.